Welcome back to my channel. So as you can tell by the title, we're making homemade Crockpot chicken noodle soup, and these are all of the ingredients that I used. So I went ahead and put some chicken broth in the Crockpot along with all of the seasonings that I showed you, and I set the Crockpot to 3.5 hours. And right here I'm just stirring up all the seasonings, making sure that everything is getting incorporated into the broth, and of course taste it to make sure it is to your liking so far. Also got the chicken broth that is low sodium, and I did not add salt or the seasoned salt that you saw. I did not add that to the broth. So next you want to go ahead and season your chicken breast with what you see here. Make sure you season both sides heavily. It does look like a lot, and to some people it may look like too much, but you're going to lose a lot of the seasoning in the broth. So you want to make sure you heavily season the breast on both sides. So right here I'm just using the tongs to rub in the seasoning instead of using my hands because I didn't feel like getting them dirty that day. So now in a pan, I'm adding some butter. I used butter because I was out of olive oil, but I ended up liking this better because now the soup has no oil in it at all. You are just going to sear the chicken breast on each side. This helps seal in all that seasoning and the flavor so that your chicken breast is not bland, but you are not cooking the chicken breast all the way through at all. This is just to help seal in flavor before you add it to the broth. So now I am coming over here and tasting the broth again to make sure it is where I want it before I add in raw chicken, because once you add in raw chicken, of course, you cannot taste it again. This is not a lot of broth, and I did that on purpose because what I like to do to also help you save money is I get a cup of warm water. I add chicken bouillon in there, which makes it taste just like chicken broth, and I add the same seasonings that I originally added to the pot to that water. I stir it up, and then I just pour it in, and it makes more broth. Now I just place the chicken breast into the broth and let that cook for about 2.5 hours on low. You do want to make sure your chicken breasts are completely covered by the broth. Now it's time to cut our onions. We are not going to chop them into little pieces. They're just going to be bite-sized, and I'll show you how to do that. So make sure you keep the butt on, that holds the onion all together, and then you just slice straight down and cut it. So now you're going to take all of your chicken out of the crock pot, and you're going to grab 2 forks that you used to shred it and add your onion to the broth now that the chicken is all out of the way. I know some people use a hand blender and just stick it right in the broth and cut up the chicken that way, but I think it makes the pieces way smaller than I like. Now that your chicken is all shredded, go ahead and add it to the broth and the onions, and you can taste it because your chicken is completely cooked right here. Now you're going to add the noodle of your choice. This was my first time using these noodles, and to be honest, I was not that impressed with them. I will probably not use them again, but use whatever type of noodle you like. Of course, do not forget to stir. Put the lid back on and let that cook for maybe 20 minutes until the noodles were right before done. And now I'm adding a can of drained carrots to the soup. Ended up making more of that seasoned water broth mixture and adding it to the pot because I felt like it was not enough broth. Then I added some more noodles to even out the ratio. Pop the lid on, and like I said, I let the noodles cook for about 20 minutes or until they're done. So this is the finished product once the noodles are cooked. It was so good and super easy. I do plan on freezing some of this because it's a lot. I topped mine off with avocado, lime juice, and a garlic breadstick on the side. Please let me know if you try this and let me know how you like it. Thanks for watching. Bye.